you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this?
Alright, we all know that I'm not the biggest fan of Iwata. This dude is a lying hypocrite. I mean, we've all seen the Emily Rogers thing. We all know the memes. I apologize. I'm so sorry. Please understand. And it's time for him to go. It's time for newer, brighter, younger, bolder, new leadership, a new direction. I mean, come on. The dude has talked about we're not going to repeat the same mistakes, and what do? They keep repeating the same mistakes. They talked about they're going to avoid droughts like the GameCube on the Wii, droughts on the Wii like the GameCube. They talked about no droughts on the 3DS early on like the Wii with DS. Same difference. Promise that the Wii U would avoid major droughts, and the Wii U pretty much set the new record for the longest time without a release, and the prior record was the N64. I mean, he apologized for the drought in January and February, and what has he done since? Pikmin gets pushed back even further. The dude has like no concept of what he wants to do with the console in general. Like, he's talking about how like the European and the American markets are much bigger and that they should provide more, like financial flux in a larger market to make more sales, but he puts out a system that literally does not really cater to American and European audiences. It's not catering to like your sports players or your COD players or it doesn't have any sports games or like Battlefield and things like that. So how is that even gonna? If you don't have FIFA or Madden, how are you catering to America or Europe? I mean, a lot of people talk about how good he was back in like the early days of O2. I mean, the GameCube was a failure from a corporate standpoint, and even from a gamer standpoint, it didn't even have a lot of games. Dude promised like 50 million units, and he didn't even get halfway there. And then he goes around telling people how he's like the director of problem solving. GameCube, we're still waiting for him to solve, the whole third-party thing, but that really can't even be done. And the whole thing about like the whole thing about him, first of all, not laying people off. You can't lay people off when you're completely understaffed. It's my time, Shokio. I mean, like, they completely underestimated the resources needed to develop games and things like that. I mean, the Wii sales are good, and everybody can say, oh yeah, the Wii won and everything, but at the end of the day, what did it do for gamers? How did it win for gamers? 360 and PS3 are still going strong, still getting games like Grand Theft Auto, Dark Souls 2. The Wii has been dead and buried since like 2011. 2011, all we had was like Zelda and Kirby. 2012, all we had was Xenoblade and the Last Story. 2010, we had like Galaxy, Kirby, Donkey Kong, Tatsunoko, Sin and Punishment, Monster Hunter Tri, No More Heroes, GoldenEye, Mega Man 10, Trauma Team, Red Steel. Like, it's been dead for a while. The GameCube was a failure. The Wii really was financially a success for him, but as for gamers, it kind of failed. And the Wii U's not really doing anything else, really. And Francis, you like to say nothing really matters but the end result, but yet you say it's the end result, but you keep going back to his past accomplishments. The company is only worth about a third of what it was 3 years ago and a fifth of what it was 5 years ago. And to your point about how he doesn't lay people off, Kid Icarus, Project Sora, as soon as they completed the game, that studio was closed. And then we can go into all the third-party games that they don't have, and you pretty much have my gist. The dude may be good for business, which he isn't really right now, but he's definitely not good for gamers, especially Nintendo gamers.
Alright, time up. Furious Francis will now give his rebuttal.
Alright, so the problem that you made is that you used Emily Rogers' article. Okay, Emily Rogers, she contradicts herself in that one article. She says that, oh, somebody said that, Iwata said this quote, somebody called me the director of problem solving. He never said that himself. So then she says, oh, for somebody who called himself the director of problem solving. He never did call himself that. Then she writes a whole big old thing on that. Also in that same article, she writes, oh, well, they thought that the main, selling point was the off-TV play for the gamepad. Iwata never said that that was the main selling point of the Wii U. So she contradicts herself in that whole article. She's just for clickbait, okay? So I don't take anything she says seriously. She has some points but most of the points in there, like I said, she contradicts herself with certain things that she says. Now, moving on to some of the other things that you said about the third-party support and things like that, I actually somewhat agree with you here and there, but you also have to remember, you have to look at further than just what happened. Why isn't Madden and Battlefield and all that stuff on the Wii U? EA came out and said, we have an unprecedented partnership with Nintendo. Yeah, what happened to that unprecedented partnership? Because they wanted to put Origin on the Wii U. What good CEO would let their company, if they're making a system, put Origin, that broken piece of crap, on the Wii U? Nobody would. Nobody would. Microsoft wouldn't, and Sony definitely wouldn't. So for you saying, oh, well, they don't have the Battlefield and stuff like that, that's because EA wanted to do ridiculous things. A good CEO would never let that happen. That's why you don't see Origin on Microsoft and Sony systems. As far as the GameCube being a complete failure, that's not true. They actually made profit on there, and Iwata was actually one of the driving forces to actually getting third-party support on there. I'm not sure if you remember the Capcom 5, but that was supposed to be 5 exclusive games for the GameCube that Iwata did usher in, and some of them got there, like Beautiful Joe, PNO 3, and Resident Evil 4. So those were all timed exclusives, or in PNO 3's case, exclusive. So you can't sit here and say it was a complete failure. They made profit off the system. Plus, he took over at the end half of the GBA, which was very successful. GBA came out in 2001. Iwata took over in 2002. So he was responsible for the end half of the GBA. He was also responsible for the DS, which the Emily Rogers article also cuts him short. She says his reign was from like 2007 or to 2009 or 10. It's bullcrap because the DS came out in 2004 and he was taking over, and the GBA was 2001. He's been there since 2002, so that's absolutely false. He's had a lot more success than people are giving him credit for, that you're giving him credit for. Now, I understand that the third-party support might not be all there, but remember, Rayman Legends got delayed. You know what I'm saying? Deus Ex, that also got delayed. They were counting on EA and other, developers to be there. Yes, Nintendo pushed back some of their games. That's a developer's fault, and Iwata's just relaying the message. That's Miyamoto, because Miyamoto wants to polish things, Eiji Numa wants to polish things. And remember, at Nintendo, developers have just as much power. Miyamoto has just as much power for things as Iwata, so because they're both, high quality developers. So you have to look at it from a whole company standpoint. It's not just one guy pulling the strings, and Iwata doesn't make any of these games. He's not developing any of these games. He is just carrying the message and trying to do his best to make sure everybody's happy. And as far as the last point goes, is that yes, as a CEO, to be a good CEO, you got to make sure that your workers are happy and make sure your workers aren't looking over their back. EA and other companies, game quality is tanking because companies are just basically being shut down because they're worried about their jobs. So the game quality, how can you work, good on a game? How can you put everything into your game when you think that you might be out of this, after the game's done? So Iwata makes sure that his guys are happy and his guys can have enough time to make the best quality exclusives in the industry. And that's what Iwata's been doing. So that's why I think he's a great CEO. And the track record proves it. I mean, whether you want to say, as far as what's happened, you have to look at the end results. And the end results are the 3DS is kicking the Vita's ass. You look at the Wii, what they did with that, even though, yeah, they did stop supporting it. That's because they have to get everything ready for the Wii U. But they still had some awesome games on there. Plus, there were still games like Pandora's Tower. There were still games like Xenoblade that all came out and that were really good. So we did get some awesome gems at the end of the life cycle. So it wasn't like 100% downward spiral from there. Shoko, where am I at here?
1 minute.
1 minute? Okay. So it wasn't a completely downward spiral. You're basically cutting short that, that the Wii sold more than the NES and the Super Nintendo combined. You're kind of just basically trying to sweep that under the rug and make it seem like it wasn't a big deal. Everybody counted Nintendo out, and Iwata showed them, no, we're not out. Remember, the GameCube, like you said, was a huge failure, which wasn't all Iwata's fault since Yamauchi was there at the beginning of it. But you said that the GameCube was a huge failure, but like I said, look at what he did with the Wii. If that was a big failure, if they're saying it was a big failure, look at how much he put up with the Wii. And you can't say this guy's not an amazing CEO from that turnaround. Who sells 20 million units to 100 million? I mean, like, who does that? What CEO does that? I don't see any other CEOs that have the track record as Iwata does. So that's my point.
All right, Bon.
Does he go again, or do I just respond to what he just said? Because technically, he just rebutted to what I said. You understand what I'm saying?
You could do like a quick 1 minute rebuttal and then get into the next point.
Give me like 3. We'll see how it goes. All right. First of all, about the whole Emily Rogers thing, whatever she says is a hypocrite. That's her. I'm talking about the facts. The information I stated is factual. What she says or has anything to do with it is irrelevant. You gotta attack my points. You can't attack her. And Iwata told IGN, people call him the director of problem solving. Emily didn't say anything like that. It was Iwata that said that. I never brought up the whole TV thing, so I don't know where you even began to go about that. Like I said, you're addressing Emily. You need to address the points that I'm making, not what she's talking about. If you don't think she's credible and this and that, that's cool. But you got to talk about the points I'm making. Origin, for as much as everybody hates and everything, it's still speculatory. You can't really confirm it. And as far as Iwata going out and getting the Capcom 5 was a failure. All those games went multi-plat. PM number 1 or whatever was bombed. The game Resident Evil 4 went on to go to the PS2, sold more on the PS2. That was a complete disaster. They have never really had any kind of real exclusive third-party support since that day. Again, you talk about the end result, but during your whole rebuttal, all you were talking about was the past accomplishments. You went on saying how the GameCube was a failure because Yamaguchi was at the beginning, yet you praised Iwata for the GBA, but yet Yamaguchi was also at the beginning of the GBA. So why is he blamed for the failure of the GameCube, but not for the success of the Game Boy Advance? Again, with the whole Rayman thing, Rayman went multi-platform because Ubisoft came out today and said because of poor sales, they decided to go multi-play. And I don't know where to talk about how EA game quality is tanking because critically and commercially, EA Games is putting out a lot more games than Nintendo that get a lot more critical acclaim as well. Nintendo has not put out a blockbuster on consoles since Zelda Skyward Sword. That's been 17 months ago. And as far as you're saying how they had to get rid of the Wii and drop the Wii to move on to the Wii U, Sony and Microsoft didn't abandon the PS3 and the Xbox 360 in favor of the Xbox One and the PS4. GTA 5 is still coming out. Dark Souls 2 is still coming out. The new Batman game is still coming out. I was going to say Uncharted, the last of Uncharted. The Last of Us came out. Beyond Two Souls is coming out. How come Nintendo is the only one that doesn't support their prior systems into their next systems? Like I proved earlier, the Wii was dead after 2010.
15 seconds.
It was dead. And they really just need to invest. They make all this money, and where are they investing it in? Not developers because they're understaffed. Look at their stocks, man. Since 2008, it's been a downhill spiral. It's 1/5 of what it was in 2013 compared to 2008. $72 compared to like what it is right now, $14.
All right, Francis, you could do your rebuttal and then bring up the next point you want to make.
Okay, and as far as what I said with the GBA and with that, I just said going off of what you said. I don't think the GameCube was a failure. Personally, I don't think it was. I was just saying that's what you were saying. Okay, that's what I just said. I want to make that clear right now. And as far as a lot of those games that you mentioned, as far as what Sony's game, those are from third parties that are also putting it out on there. You know what I'm saying? Microsoft doesn't make anything, so I don't know what you're talking. Unless you're talking about Kinect, what the hell does Microsoft make? So I don't know why you're including Microsoft in there as a publisher. They just make Kinect. You said EA's game quality isn't tanking. Are you sure about that? Because have you seen Army of Two? That is probably the crappiest game out there right now. Have you seen Fuse? Those are both EA games. Those games suck. Both of those games have way under 70% Metacritics on there. Okay, so I don't know why you're saying that EA has great game quality. They don't. As far as another thing, you said Nintendo hasn't put out a blockbuster since Skyward Sword. That's not true. If you look at New Super Mario Bros., that game is selling extremely well, and it will continue selling extremely well. I think it's over 2.5 million units sold, and eShop sales, I'm not really sure. But that game, I would say that's the only reason why people are picking up the Wii U in the first place, along with Nintendo Land. And if you want to look at stocks and you want to talk about stuff like that, no other company is doing good. When was the last time Sony made any money? Okay? When was the last time Microsoft was making big money? All of them, Sony blends their entertainment divisions with their TVs and other stuff to cover up how bad the PlayStation is. So if you want to look at how bad Nintendo is, Nintendo's doing much better than Sony and Microsoft because Sony doesn't make any money and Microsoft doesn't profit as much as Nintendo as far as their forecast goes if you look at the latest one. So if you want to bring up money in stocks, Nintendo's still doing pretty good. They don't have to hide their results like Sony and Microsoft do.
Okay, I guess I'll chime in real quick.
I mean, if
I'll
Francis
give you.
doesn't want to move on to a different point,
Alright,
do you want to move on to like a different topic or point?
Let's move on.
give me like 30 seconds. You can't
30
fall.
seconds.
You can't.
No,
fall-
no. Let's move on to the next point.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is Fuse was made by Insomniac. That's not EA games.
Published by EA.
It's published, not developed though.
But
That
EA
doesn't matter.
did pick it up and like bastardize it though.
You can't like fault that. Like that's not an EA developed game.
That is an EA.
No, Insomniac developed that, man. That's like saying Namco fucked up Star Fox and you gotta like. Yeah, Nintendo didn't develop that. Alright, move on.
Nintendo's name on it, yeah, they take part of the blame too. You have to make sure you keep, like, if you're a publisher, you have to make sure that you have quality control. Like
But
Sega,
then
they have that with Alien Colonialism. They let Gearbox run loose.
But then you just said earlier that Iwata, who's the CEO, who's responsible for all this below him, isn't accountable and shouldn't have to watch it all.
What are you talking? When did I say you shouldn't have to? I just said it's a shared pool. I said it's everybody's fault. It's not one person. If you want to blame Iwata for it, you have to blame the developers who make it.
Okay, we have completely like gone off of the debate
We're just
structure.
going back and forth. Alright,
Hey.
go on to the next point. This will be Francis's point.
Yeah.
Oh, my point. Okay. A lot of people like to say, and I've seen you say it as far as like what's going on right now. But if you haven't noticed, and everybody seems to be focusing on the Wii U, but have you noticed? I want to get your take on the 3DS.
3DS is amazing. Nobody's criticizing, or at least I'm not criticizing the 3DS. There's nothing wrong with the 3DS.
But people were criticizing it and saying the same things that you're saying that people are saying now. You know what I'm saying? Why is it not that people just don't like let Nintendo put out their games? Like, I just don't understand the extreme impatience by some people, especially when it happened with the 3DS. I understand what Iwata says, but like I said, they were planning on having more support from third parties. You know what I'm saying? So they get the third parties like to screw Nintendo royally, where they don't do the same with Microsoft. I mean, same thing happened with the 3DS, and it's selling right now. Or do you think that's going to happen with the Wii U, or do you think it's not going to be like the 3DS, even though they have similar type of software coming out for it? You know, starting with Pikmin 3 this month.
Is that a question you want me to answer right now?
It's a question.
Or-
I just want to ask you a question. I think we got most of our points, you know, through. I just want to ask you a question as far as that goes.
I'm saying, is that like you keeping going, or do you want me to answer this right now?
Answer it.
Oh, okay. As far as the extreme impatience go, like I said, the Wii died in 2011, and we're all still waiting for the next big Nintendo game to blow the world up. The new Super Mario Brothers games are good games, but they're not like... Those were the same experiences we had on the original Wii and the DS. And then you have the constant delays and the constant pushbacks and stuff. Like, everybody's waiting, and Pikmin was supposed to be, like, early launch window, and, like, things are just getting pushed back. What was your other point? I'm sorry? Oh, the 3DS. Why is the situation different? The situation is different is because Nintendo handhelds can actually gain third-party support. They're dealing with the Vita, which, I don't care what anybody says, is a dead-on-arrival handheld. You cannot compare the competition of a PlayStation Vita to that of the Microsoft Xbox and the Sony PlayStation. It's not even a contest. Those two command support. Those two command third-party prowess. The Vita, you're gonna say something to me, but you can't compare those two, man. For the others, go ahead.
Oh, well, you say that everybody's saying now, oh, well, it's just the Vita. Remember what everybody was saying back in 2011? Because I remember. They said smartphones are going to kill Nintendo, and every single troll on YouTube, every single troll said Nintendo can't beat smartphones. Now it's like, oh, well, all the competition is the Vita. Why does the competition of smartphones disappear now? Just question for you.
Well, I'm not like... That question be like for Pyro. I never brought up any of those points.
Okay, I'm just...
I don't, like when you said like everybody said the 3DS was like no, the 3DS is doing amazing. I mean, I understand people made those points, but in my opinion, at least, those points were dumb. As long as Nintendo has Pokemon, there was always going to be a Nintendo handheld. That's how I feel anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, I definitely think that as far as like your criticism of like the Wii U is just kind of insane at times. I mean, you make video after video after video. Do you do it because, I'm going to ask you another question. Do you do it just because you want the attention?
No, because nothing is changing. It's been 7 months and nothing is changing. Look at 2013. XCOM, Deadpool, Dead Island, DMC, Anarchy Reigns, Metal Gear Rising, Diablo's coming out, Beyond Two Souls, WWE 2K4, GTA, Hitman, Saints Row, Metro, Borderlands, Tomb Raider, Dead Space, Bioshock Infinite, Crysis, Far Cry 3, Call of War, Battlefield 4, Warframe, Fuse. Like, none of these games are coming out on the Wii U. And then you go into next year, you got Witcher 3, Thief 4, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 15, The Crew, Division, PS5.
Let Francis make it.
It's not coming.
You're naming a bunch of crap that has really little. I mean, what can Nintendo do if third-party developers don't want to put their games as far as because they don't think they sell to Nintendo customers? Bethesda, who has a game that I think that would sell to a lot of Nintendo fans with Skyrim, says we're not putting our games on Wii U and we're not going to tell you an answer why.
Hold on.
Exactly.
You call those you call those games crap?
No, I said all that crap is coming to the it's from third parties because third parties want to develop for the bigger install base. Nintendo needs to grow their install base before they get the third-party games.
Well, you know, when Microsoft first came into the console business, they didn't have the rep, they didn't have the install base, but they still got a lot of support. How was that?
Produce party games that are good. A lot of third parties are scared to develop on Nintendo systems because they're going up against Nintendo's games. They look at how much Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, and all of those games sell, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to put our content on there because we don't think it will sell.
Well, then how come that doesn't exist on the 3DS? Why does the 3DS have so much support then?
The 3DS has a lot of Japanese support because they know that Japanese games and those type of games will sell on the 3DS. The 3DS does not have a lot of American support.
So why can't the Wii U get a lot of Japanese support then? Why is it all going to the PlayStation 3? Why don't we see games like Ni no Kuni coming on the Wii U and things like that?
Because Japan likes handhelds more than they like consoles. So selling, as far as Japanese developers go, as far as the console goes, is not as easy. The PlayStation 3 has a huge install base, but if you look at the install base in Japan, the 3DS has already passed it up. Yeah. That's how minuscule consoles are in Japan. The 3DS has already passed up the PS3's install base. So Japan loves handhelds. That's the thing.
We know. But right now, you're just making excuses. I don't want to hear excuses. I want to see results. I don't know what the solution would be to get these third-party games onto the Wii U. But as a CEO, he needs to find a way. That is his job.
And let me tell you what the solution is. The solution is to first grow the install base. That's the first solution, is to grow the install base with your own games. The next solution is to go out and get certain games that you feel that are going to be good. Do collaboration, like Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, something like that. Like Sonic Lost World, like the Sonic and Mario Olympic games, stuff like that. Going out and get Bayonetta 2. Doing stuff like that, you know what I'm saying, is Wonderful 101. Going out and getting Platinum games, doing stuff like that. That's going to all help. That's the third-party support that we need to rely on right now. Ubisoft has somewhat, as far as you said, like the Crew Division, those aren't coming right now, but they can still get ports down the line. Plus, they still have Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and Splinter Cell. So I think what I would say right now is to Wii U owners or for people who want third-party support, hell, freaking buy, buy the games, Black Bond. I don't know if you have a Wii U or not, but
no, hell no.
Of course
hell
not.
no.
You don't have one, but
hell no.
That's the thing. And you complain about third-party support. There's third-party support on there. And like I said, Wii Uers need to pick up that. But I think Iwata's done a good job of getting Platinum games. Getting the Wonderful 101, getting Bayonetta 2.
Why didn't they get Metal Gear Rising?
Why didn't they get Metal Gear Rising?
That's Platinum games.
Because Konami, I'm not sure if Konami likes to release. They haven't released much stuff on the Wii U.
They're releasing on the PC. And nobody can foothold or money shoot it for there. That's an open platform.
Why they release Metal Gear Rising on the Xbox 360? It sold like crap. I don't know why Konami does certain things. I mean, it was a mistake to release it on the 360, though.
To interject, they actually came out and explained why Rising wasn't on the Wii U, and they said because it was too far in development for them to squeeze a Wii U version into their plans.
And that's what happens with the majority of a lot of the
So then why is the PC getting a version then?
I'm just saying what they said. I'm just giving y'all, their explanation.
I'll tell you why PC's getting it. The PC's getting a version because it's probably cheaper to develop for on there, and you don't have to pay the same amount of royalties that you have to do on the Wii U.
There we go, Francis. Now we're getting somewhere. How can we gain third-party support? lower royalties. That'd be one thing.
Oh, come on, Blackbon.
Shokio, you always tell me how much money Nintendo has in the. What was that one quote you said, Shokio? Hold on, get this out.
What?
Shokio said that if Nintendo continued to lose money for how many years?
I think it's like the next 50 years. It would take them losing 250 million each year for 50 years to finally.
Okay, so they got
with no profits.
They got paper stacks then, right?
Yeah.
Now, how did the original Xbox break into the industry? By moving them paper stacks around. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said my earlier point. Iwata, for all his success, what is he doing to invest the money that he's made?
I just told you. Sonic Lost World, Platinum Games, Atlas, the stuff that they're doing with the 3DS, Shin Megami Tensei 4. I mean, there's lots of stuff that they're doing with their money.
Dude, Microsoft showed more collaborations on launch than all that, man. And they weren't nearly as successful as the Wii.
There's a lot of collaborations that I just told you about. I mean, if you're talking about Microsoft doesn't put out any freaking first-party games.
Rise is a collaboration. The Killer Instinct game is a collaboration with that Double Phalanx game. Double Phalanx. Quantum Dreams, that's a collaboration game. Microsoft doesn't own the studios. Pretty much everything they make is a Gears of War is a collaboration game. So why aren't we seeing these giant collaborations then to the effects of something like a Gears of War? If they got all this money and stuff, what's the problem?
Is Bayonetta 2 not big or no?
No, Bayonetta is not a big franchise. I'm sorry.
As far as sales go.
Yeah, and Platinum Games is not a big developer either.
But for gamers, Bayonetta 2 is amazing. That's good. Bayonetta is, in my opinion, is the best action game I've ever played. Bayonetta 1. And if you're putting Bayonetta 2 is big for gamers, though. Like, are we talking just sales here, or are we talking about stuff that like?
I've been talking about from the start what is good for gamers.
Collaborate with Epic to make a shooter to sell like 5 million copies. Is that what you want?
Listen, you were hyping up the sales of the new Mario games, and I was saying those games are not blockbuster games, and you were saying yes they are because they sold a lot.
Okay.
So I guess we got to define more. Are we on the gamer spectrum?
Okay, well, what?
Or the corporate spectrum?
Let's come to a common, definition of what you guys mean by blockbuster or a big game. Are we talking about sales, or are we talking about quality, or are we talking about a mixture of both?
I guess you could say it's a mixture of both, but what I mean more is like
mixture of both. I mean, you say Gears of War is like a big. That game, in my opinion, Gears of War sucks. I mean, that's just me. Everybody has their as far as what's big and what's not. I think Bayonetta 2 is a much better.
Well, I mean, that doesn't change the fact that it's still a blockbuster.
Yeah. I'm talking about where has that Nintendo console game been that everybody's talking about, like all the generations past, that big ass Nintendo game that shows everybody that Nintendo is the best developer in the world. It hasn't come yet. And you cannot tell me that New Super Mario Bros. Wii U or whatever is pretty much showing that, because I'm sorry, it's not.
All I said is that Nintendo, you said a game that sells a lot. I mentioned the game that sells a lot and actually probably sold. One of the things a lot of people don't want to bring up, you said that, they didn't launch the 3DS with like a Mario game, and that's one of the things they did remedy for the Wii U launch, was getting the Mario game out there, and it really paid big dividends for them, because I don't think if they had that Mario game, things would have been way worse than they actually are. So
agreed, but when I brought up Zelda, I wasn't talking about sales, because to me, the sales of Skyward Sword were pretty pathetic for a Zelda game. I was talking about a high-quality game, like when you go to gamer rankings and you see Zelda Skyward Sword, it is up in the 90s, or like a game like Xenoblade. Where is the last Nintendo game on a console that lit the world on fire?
So Bond's definition of blockbuster is simply just a game that shows the amazingness of the system.
I'm speaking from a gamer's perspective. I understand we have the corporate debates, and that's cool when we specify them. But I'm talking about from a gamer. As a gamer, what was the last game Nintendo put on a console that lit the world on fire?
So you mean like game rankings? So I mean, what you want to talk about?
I'm just talking like, listen,
how high does the ranking have to be? Does it have to be like
when a game like GTA comes out, it's lighting the world on fire. When a game like BioShock comes out, it's lighting the world on fire. Tomb Raider is lighting the world on fire. People talk about it. It's got word of mouth and buzz. Like
that's not the argument here. Go ahead and go ahead, Francis.
Go ahead, Francis.
That's personally me. I think those games. I think Pikmin 3 can do that. We have to see what the ratings are when they come out. Like I said, it's really early in the life of the Wii U. I think they have a ton of games that can actually do what you're saying. Personally, me, I really enjoyed New Super Mario Bros., but I'm an old school classic fan, so that's just me. The ratings, I guess, don't fit your description of what you're talking about, but personally, me, I absolutely loved it. I thought they added a ton of really good stuff, and you didn't play the game, so of course you're just going off the game ranking. You're not going off.
No, I'm not talking about scores. I'm saying the game was good, but like, for example, a game like Super Mario Galaxy came out, and that freaking turned the industry upside down. Like everybody went crazy over it. That was a landmark game. Nobody's talking about New Super Mario Bros. Wii U.
You're saying game ranking. First you said game rankings as far as the ratings, and then you said now you're talking about innovation. Like, what are you talking about?
No, I'm simply speaking, when was the last time Nintendo released a game that lit the industry on fire, that showed the world that Nintendo is still the top dog in gaming on consoles?
That's so subjective, dude. Like, that's just, I'm sorry.
You can give your opinion. It's not like a factual question.
Like I said, personally, me, I'm classic. I like Mario, so I would say Mario would be that game, or not Mario. I would say Mario would be that game for me. Personally, me, I love the game because in this age of just everybody picks up a shooter, and all of a sudden, if you make a shooter online multiplayer, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. Personally, me going back to the classic style, adding all the stuff that they did, I think it's a very underrated game from lighting the world on fire. I just think enough people didn't play it, and if they actually did, they would see that it was actually.
That's the problem.
Okay, so just to clarify, his question was, what was the last Nintendo game that set the world on fire? And for you personally, you felt New Super Mario Bros. U set the world on fire.
I felt that it was a very good game. I felt that it was a very good game.
But did it cause a huge stir? Because that's what Black Bond is asking.
Did it cause a huge stir in sales?
Like in the gaming world.
In the gaming world?
Yeah.
Somewhat. It's very popular. I mean, I'm not sure. Comparing it to what, Zelda, or comparing it to, it's on track to beat Zelda's sales. So I mean, Skyward Sword, and it's already beat some of the other games that caused a huge stir. I mean, Xenoblade would be that game that you'd say that caused a huge stir, but New Super Mario Bros. Has already sold more than Xenoblade. So I mean, it's like, it all depends on like I said, the definitions he was giving was very.
Okay, so what's your definition, Bond?
Galaxy comes out, turns the gaming world upside down. There are certain games that come out that hardcore gamers gravitate to it. You're going to talk about them. Go ahead, Francis.
I'm out. See, like I said, your definition is just, you're saying sets the world on fire. There was tons of people out there saying that it's just Mario in space jumping around.
Yeah,
so,
there's dumbasses everywhere, but nobody. That game was. Bam.
You look at the VGA awards, you look at all the stuff, so you're saying set the world on fire. So that would be industry journalists and everybody, right?
Gamers, hardcore gamers, everything.
It wasn't even nominated for Game of the Year or any of like the VGAs or lots of people's Game of the Year. It wasn't even on there. So
you did not just bring up the VGAs. They're like,
I know.
Come on,
I'm just saying,
man.
You're saying set the world on fire, but like I said, I'm not really sure like exactly what you're,
People are going to be talking about.
Francis is saying it's a very subjective.
People are still talking about Super Mario Galaxy, just like in the same way people will talk about Metroid Prime and an Ocarina of Time or a Mario 64. Nobody's talking about New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, man.
That's not true.
Like, come on. Let's be real about that.
People are talking about it. It's a very popular game.
It's a very popular game, yes, but you're not. Come on, man. You're not going around like, oh my God. And they're like, no, people are not talking like that shit, man.
Like I said, your definition's extremely subjective. You first based it off sales, kind of, and then you moved on to innovation.
I'm just contributing factors into the whole big picture. I'm not giving one definition or another.
So much to the point to where it's completely subjective. But look, like I said, just so we can get through this point, I understand what you're saying, and I will let you have that one. I'll let you have that one and say, you know what? Yeah, personally, me, New Super Mario Bros. Is not as good as Galaxy, but in my opinion, it's better than Sunshine. You know what I'm saying? So there's so it does some things better. It does some things not as good.
Yeah. Well, we're getting into like pretty much subjectiveness, and you guys aren't pretty much accepting each other as they go.
For a clear-cut example, Wii Sports, that set the fucking world on fire.
Sales-wise.
Everything-wise. Everybody was talking about it.
Let's move on to a different topic. Because I mean, you guys are not going to agree on, you know, what you guys consider,
That,
you know,
that
what's this
topic
world
was
on fire.
completely opinion-based anyway.
So, Bond, go ahead and present the next point since Francis did the last one.
There's like really nothing else to talk about. I mean, we were on the point of, my last point was on third party, that, you know, Iwata, for all this money he's made, for all this Scrooge McDuck mountain of money, the dude really hasn't shown the ability to invest or improve the infrastructure of Nintendo. They're coming in here to talk about how they're understaffed, games are taking longer, they were unprepared for HD development, and things of that nature. Like, where's the direction investments?
And
Not to...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, and Furious Francis, his rebuttal to that was, you know, Bayonetta and the Shin Megami X Fire Emblem and Sonic Lost World. So, pretty much with this point, you know, what he's saying is true, of course, but you feel that it isn't enough. And he's saying,
I definitely don't think it's
yeah,
enough.
and he's saying, well, they have these things, so they are putting their money to use. So it's pretty much just a matter of you still don't feel that it's enough. And Francis does think it's enough.
I also add something. I also didn't add Monster Hunter, which they invested heavily into, and also Dragon Quest, which they also invested into, and Square Enix completely botched Dragon Quest on the Wii. Turning it into an MMO was the worst idea, as you can tell by the 3DS sales have already surpassed the 3DS remake. Dragon Quest VII has already surpassed Dragon Quest X sales on the Wii U and on the Wii, because Square Enix decided to turn everything MMO. But look, like I'm saying, those were also investments that he made. Getting Monster Hunter exclusive, that was huge. That was huge.
So I guess the thing Bond wants to know is, do you feel that they've been using enough of their money, or do you feel that they need to go even further?
I feel that they've been using their money because, one, they actually pay their employees. So they pay their employees. They don't lay off a ton of people. If not any, from what I've heard. And they do their investments. Like I said, I mentioned Monster Hunter. I mentioned Dragon Quest, Shin Megami Tensei, Bayonetta. I mean, Wonderful 101. You know, and not only that, but if you heard what Platinum Games Hideki Kamiya said, that they actually had more. It actually took more manpower to make the Wonderful 101 than Bayonetta. So, I mean, you got to pay all those guys. I mean, Nintendo's paying these guys for that. So they're paying them more for that than the original Bayonetta game. So that's also a lot as well. Sonic, they got a 3-game exclusive deal with them. So that's also good. And like I said, once they drive the install base up, the third party, they'll come back. The third parties like money. If they can make money on a system. You also said, Bond, I know in one of your other points, you said that Nintendo, the Wii, didn't have third-party support. But that's actually not true, because every single major third-party developer pretty much put games out on the Wii, except for Bethesda. That was the only third-party developer that I can think of, notable one that didn't. It's just that the games they put out on there were B and C teams. There were some gems, like you got like No More Heroes, Let's Go 2, Nier Monster Beat and Blade, Conduit, Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles, Fort, Dead Space Extraction, House of the Dead, you know, Rayman Origins, Monster Hunter Tribe. You know, there were some good third-party games, but a lot of third parties just didn't invest the same amount of money that they put into the Xbox 360 and PS3. But to say that the Wii didn't have third-party support is completely false.
No, it's not false, because it's been dead and buried since 2011. Here it is, 2013. It's dead, while the other machines still have support.
In the Wii's life frame, from when Nintendo was supporting the Wii, when they put out, third parties put out games on there, tons of games.
Well, Francis is saying they had third-party support in the form of third-party exclusives.
How is it not worth anything?
Do we need to go list the name of games that did not show up on the Wii?
Well, I mean, I think we all know why it didn't
games
get
that went PC, 360, PS3 that didn't go to the Wii?
But there was plenty of games that were on the Wii that weren't on other systems. So I mean, it's like I said, it's up to.
There's no comparison. The games that didn't come to the Wii compared to the games that were only on the Wii, it's not even a comparison, man.
You said that there's no third-party support. You're just upset that there wasn't certain games. You didn't like the selection. But to say that there was no third-party support is false, because every single major third-party put out multiple games. All the COD games, those were on Wii. They just weren't as good. So for you to say that there's none, that's not true, because Madden, FIFA, COD, all the games, Epic Mickey, Guitar Hero, Michael Jackson The Experience, Cookie Mama, Sonic games, Skylanders, You Draw Stupid Tablets, Red Steel. There were so many games out on the Wii.
Every game you can name, I can name like 10 games that weren't even there.
I'm not understanding.
Like,
my point is that there was plenty of third parties released all sorts of crap. Whether the quality was there or not is not the point.
So you're happy that crap was released, but the quality escaped the system.
No,
That's
there was
not
a lot
good argument.
No, there was a lot of names of
Most of the games he listed were quality games.
Oh, I know, but like I said, for every one game you name, I could probably name 10 games that aren't on that system.
So look, so what is your idea of not having third-party support? Not having.
Listen, when somebody says no third-party support, it's like when somebody says Xbox has no exclusives. It's not literal. It's basically like saying it doesn't have a lot. Just like when we say Xbox has no exclusives, that's Halo, Gears, and Forza.
Okay, like I said, Bond is pretty much talking about it lacked multiplats, which we all know why, because it wasn't even an HD system. And Francis is saying what it didn't have in multiplats, it made up for in third-party exclusives that weren't on the other systems.
If the third-party support was strong, like you said, the system wouldn't be dead and buried right now. It'd still be supporting and people would still be making games, but that's not the case.
That's not the case because a lot of developers, they've moved on to doing other things. Like they supported it while Nintendo was supporting it, and when Nintendo stopped supporting it, they said, okay, well, we're going to move on. So, I mean, it was supported when it had its life frame. The Wii was never, it was never meant to be supported as long as it was, and Nintendo would have kept on supporting it. But you said it was dead and buried, I think you said 2011, right?
Yep.
Xenoblade and Pandora's Tower.
Xenoblade, it was completed in 2010. All we did was get a late localization.
But it was they still brought it over.
Yeah, they didn't do any development time. There was no gaming development studios. All they did was bring it over.
Development time, we're talking about games being brought over. Those were 3 quality games that were brought over.
The game was finished early 2010. Just because they're late to the party and bring it over, you don't credit them making a whole new game in 2012.
I didn't credit them. I just said there was support there. You said it was dead and buried in 2010.
And even then, we had to bitch, whine, and complain just to get the game.
So was I retroactively playing my game from 2010 when I was playing Xenoblade? Oh, it's ridiculous, dude. The game came out in 2012 in America. Nintendo of America brought it over here, so 2012, that is support that they brought the game over.
Oh yeah, support, but they didn't make any 2012 games. The game was complete.
I'm not worried about the date that it was made. It was made in 2009, or if it's a good game and it gets brought over, it gets brought over. It doesn't matter. They made one last story.
In 2012, what do we have? Xenoblade, Last Story, Mario Party 9, and Rhythm Head. We had 4 games. Oh wow.
And Pandora's Tower.
That's 2013.
Pandora's Tower. Okay, yeah. Was that 2013?
Yeah.
You're thinking about Europe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am.
Like I said, 4 games released like in the span of an entire year.
You just said it was dead and buried. I just said, yeah. I said that they had a ton of games coming out. I just said that there were some really good games that did come out on the system. So it wasn't
I love the game and I own it. It's like a godly game, but like, come on, man.
Bomb. I'm not trying to say that you're. First of all, I'm not refuting your point as far as what you said is, dead and buried. All I'm saying is there was more that you didn't mention. That's all I'm trying to say.
So what do you think whoever at Nintendo, Iwata, whatever, can do to improve what I call an awful and terrible situation?
Drive the install base up with their first party games. That's the only thing they can do right now. Drive the install base and entice third parties to actually develop for the Wii U. That's the only thing that they need to do right now. They need to do that, and they need to make sure that they're doing their investments. As far as like with Platinum Games, Iwata did say that there's more collaborations that they are going to announce. So hopefully you get to hear about those later in the year. But they need to drive the install base.
So wouldn't it have made more sense if they did all of this during the year head start and not like as the competition is literally 2 and 3 months away? Like, what was the point of releasing early if they weren't going to do all that stuff and build it up? Like, for example, the reason the PlayStation 3 had such trouble with the Xbox is because Microsoft built that install base to like, what, 10 million before the PS3 even hit the gate?
I don't remember if they sold 10 million or not. But the reason why the PS3 had trouble was because of its architecture and developers. There was crappy ports and it was really expensive. I think if the PlayStation 3 came out with a better price point, and better developer support at the beginning, then it wouldn't have been as bad. But there was other factors. It wasn't because of Microsoft that there were 10 million, whatever. It was because Sony and their cell processor and their Blu-ray, and it came out to be $600, $599. Everybody remembers that at the press conference.
All agreeable points, but like I said, Microsoft, they came out and they did what they do in the head start. They drove the install base. They put out games like Call of Duty. They had games like Fight Night Round 3. They had an Elder Scrolls game in March. 4 months after the launch, they had a huge blockbuster third-party release in Elder Scrolls. Why can't we get something as far as sales, critical acclaim? Legacy franchises, Morrowind, Daggerfall, that is a revered franchise. Why can't Nintendo do what Microsoft did with 360? Why can't they get these big games to come on their system early on? And because the 360 wasn't well established, its user base wasn't huge, and they're getting big games like they got Tecmo to bring over Dead or Alive, that's Japanese. They got Elder Scrolls 4, Fight Night.
Like I said, I think it's the pessimism towards Nintendo as far as their game is it's not going to sell. A lot of third parties already think, oh, well, we can't sell, so Nintendo has to do exclusive things. Like in March, I think they brought out like Lego City Undercover exclusive, and they brought out Monster Hunter. Here in America, Monster Hunter isn't as big, but although Monster Hunter did really well though, but it's just, I guess it's not as critically acclaimed as the Elder Scrolls franchise, but it's still a very good game to have as an exclusive. So I think Nintendo tried with what they can do as far as getting like Lego City and Monster Hunter, and I think that they were, like I said, they were banking on actually having more third-party support from EA and their unprecedented partnership, but EA decides to put out crap and GIMP ports, and that's what
Need for Speed Most Wanted You was not a GIMP port.
But it was, how many months late was it, and with not all the DLC, and for 3 times the price of the PS3 and 360 version? How can you expect, most new owners have other systems, how can you expect them to go spend $60 when it's not even fully supported?
Could make the same argument early on with the Xbox 360's life cycle. But you do make a good point, but the counter to that point is this. Nintendo hasn't released any games really for the system. All that's been there is for third parties to release games and make money, and even then the games don't sell. All Nintendo has released is what?
Yeah.
Nintendo Land, New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, and what else have they released? A Wario game, Shokio?
Fun. Why should anybody go out? Ports are they're fast to make. A lot of third parties, Ubisoft said that ports cost about $1 million on the Wii U. So you don't have to sell very much to make your money back. And most of the third parties, they all made their money back with the ports they brought out, and then some. So you put out ports they don't add anything new. They're somewhat GIMP. Some of them, like EA, all of EA's games, except for, like you said, Need for Speed, but like I said, it was missing and it was late. All of EA's games are GIMP. Madden 13 was Madden 12. Dude, they put out Madden 12 and reskinned it as Madden 13 and said, we don't want to support the Wii U because look at our Madden game, it didn't sell. Like, it's bullshit, dude.
I agree, but you said that the reason they don't sell is because Nintendo games are cock-blocking them. There's no Nintendo games out.
And then they're GIMP. The reason why some of them don't sell their GIMP. Look at the sales of all of EA's games, and then compare that to the sales of like Assassin's Creed and Batman. Batman, Assassin's Creed, and those games that weren't quite as GIMPed and offered better value, those games sold way more.
Batman wasn't GIMPed on Wii U?
What's up?
Batman wasn't GIMPed on Wii U?
It was a quick port, but it had all the DLC. It had all the DLC in there, whereas EA releases a game. And
yeah, he's saying it was no Call of Duty or Injustice or anything like that.
Yeah, like you get everything. Batman, obviously, the port could have been better, but it had everything in the game.
It had the content, is what he's saying.
That's such a fitting name for that game, if I must say so.
Injustice.
Which one?
Injustice.
Oh. But you see what I'm saying here, Bon? What I'm trying to say is that third parties need to, like, let's just look at some of the third parties go. We get Zombie U. They talk about it, Killer Freaks, okay? And instead of keeping it Killer Freaks and keeping it like that, and you know what I'm saying, and adding online play and adding multiple melee weapons and adding all the stuff that you would expect, Ubisoft completely changes the direction of the game, puts it out, has frame rate issues, has no online multiplayer, has 2 two-player couch multiplayer, dude. It's just like such a throw. I mean, it's a cool mode, but not what you see from other 360 and
That
PS3
sounds
games.
like a Nintendo first-party franchise right there. Two-player offline.
Don't get off.
I thought
something
we
different.
liked that.
Don't get off
And
into something
another
different.
thing is, when did that game have performance issues? I didn't see any performance issues on Eurogamer and Digital Foundry.
Did you play Zombie U?
I have not played the game, but I have not read any publications or seen any frame rate analysis because Shokio knows that game did have frame rate issues.
Zombie U.
The remix would have been uploaded.
Pretty much the first day.
Okay, but
That's why they released a patch to fix the frame rate.
okay, but what Francis is saying is that despite the absence of Nintendo first-party games, the reason why a lot of these games did not sell is because these ports were gimped. Now, do you agree with that, Bond?
Yeah. I'm gonna add one more thing.
Okay.
Black Box. Look at what Ubisoft does for The Division. Look at all the stuff that's in there, and that's their new IP for the Xbox One. Then compare that to the quality of Zombie U. There's no comparison. They tried a lot harder and you can do The Division on the PS3 and 360. You can do it. They probably do it if the life cycle was going to extend more. They'd probably do it on there, and it would be that quality because you look at what they're doing with other games. But with the Wii U, they're like this Zombie U thing, and the game had a frame rate issue. They had to release a patch. There was God, make it more than 2 players at least. And on top of that, can you have multiple melee weapons? Can you make it to where it's actually compelling? Can you make no replay value? I mean, come on. How do you expect something like that to sell? No, viewers aren't stupid. I mean, they don't need to buy that game. If they want to, I bought it on discount and sale, you know what I'm saying, used. But no, they don't. Wii users don't need to buy that. They're looking for games for high quality that the other companies have, like on the PS3 and 360, and third parties don't want to do that. They either want to make a GIMP port or they want to make a crappy, you know what I'm saying, game with no replay value and no features that other systems have.
just letting y'all know it's been an hour, so y'all might want to start wrapping it up.
But in the end, that's nobody's fault but Nintendo's.
That's Ubisoft's fault.
No, bullshit, because it wasn't always like that. Back in the Nintendo days and the Super Nintendo days, third-party support was at an all-time high. Something bad happened that changed that, and they still have not been able to turn it around.
Nintendo for Ubisoft making a bad game?
I'm blaming Nintendo for not getting top-tier third-party support.
Absolutely, no, because you said right now that that's...
No, Ubisoft is responsible for their game. I'm blaming Nintendo for not getting top-tier third-party support. Why isn't Nintendo getting games like The Division, like you talked about? Why isn't Nintendo getting ABC and XYZ?
But that's not what Francis was just talking about. He was talking specifically about Zombie U.
Yeah, and I said Ubisoft is responsible for...
Yeah, and then you said, well, that's Nintendo's fault. Like, he was talking about Zombie U's issues.
Nintendo's fault for not getting the top-tier games.
That's not what I said.
Well, I'm saying he wasn't talking about top-tier games. He was talking about Zombie U.
Yeah, and I agreed with him. I said that is Ubisoft's fault.
So it goes back to my point saying that third parties don't they don't put their A game on. They don't put their A game to the table. If you're gonna come in with your foot tapped in, then you don't come at all because you're not bringing anything that's compelling. Third parties are not bringing compelling games. Nintendo was trying Bayonetta 2. That game is very compelling. Wonderful 101. That game's very compelling. Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. That game is going to be awesome because Fire Emblem Awakening was tight. Sonic Lost Worlds. That game's compelling as well. They're doing their best to try to bring.
We're identifying all these problems, but nobody is going to or looking for a resolution. Why can't we throw money around? Why can't we throw money around to third-party developers like Microsoft? We're sitting on mountains of money.
Wait a minute. So
he just listed games.
No, I'm talking about for regular third-party support.
You're talking about for ports?
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft, everybody used to say, these games used to be exclusive to Sony PlayStation 3, like Devil May Cry and Tekken, but Microsoft paid the money and Microsoft bought them out. Microsoft goes...
So what Bond is saying, like, all those exclusives are fine and all, but they need to throw their money at multi-class as well.
Hell, Microsoft threw $50 million at Rockstar for that GTA 4 DLC. If they're sitting on as much money as you claim, Shokio, whatever that absurd quote was or whatever, why are they not being more aggressive?
Here's a problem. Look, they're being aggressive. It's subjective how aggressive that you're saying that they're being. they're being aggressive. Okay, like I said, I named a bunch of games that they're going to put out on there.
And
But
here's one
the
question. Go
problem.
ahead.
When you start paying for like ports, every single third-party company is going to start looking for handouts. They're going to start treating Nintendo like that, like EA tried to do with Origin. They're trying to take advantage of Nintendo because they feel that their games won't sell on there. So they'll say, well, give me money to port it. Or they'll say, well, let me put Origin on the Wii U. No, absolutely not.
So why
Well,
don't
that's plausible, but that's also an assumption.
Yeah, why don't developers treat Microsoft like that then? After all the handouts Microsoft was giving out.
Microsoft doesn't make first-party IP, and they're more confident their IPs will sell. Not that they actually will, because companies tank and go down left and right. Darksiders, yeah, that was supposed to be a great. That sell? No, that whole THQ tanked because they put the U-Draw tablets on the 360 and PS3. A lot of
make any sense. That doesn't make sense though. So Microsoft can pay people to make games and to make multiplats. They won't be spited. But if Nintendo does the same thing, they will be spited and disrespected. That
never said. Look, listen, Microsoft. We don't know how much Microsoft is giving to actually make multiplats. You just said exclusive deal.
I said multiplat, everything. Multiplats, games, whatever.
Wait a minute. We don't know if they're paying for Devil May Cry. We don't know. That was just fanboys online that raged.
You also don't know about Origin. Concrete.
Well, wait a minute.
There you go.
Come on.
No, there's no. Listen, as plausible as it seems, nobody can sit here and tell me 100% without a shadow of a doubt that is true, because it's not been factually proven if that was true. If that went to court, it would get thrown out because it is not beyond a shadow of a doubt.
There's far more talk about that whole Origin deal than I've ever heard of Microsoft ever paying for stuff like DMC. I've heard of exclusive DLC. Yes, I've heard of that. But I haven't heard of Microsoft throwing money for multiplats. People want to develop for Microsoft system. They don't have first-party content. They can just sell their content on there with, without that first-party studio there, like Nintendo's games are. So they can put out, whatever they want, and maybe it will sell, maybe it won't. You know what I'm saying? There's other reasons. Microsoft is throwing around money for DLC, not for the actual. And it's only for like a few games, like GTA, and it's like what? Call of Duty, GTA,
biggest games out there.
Tomb Raider. I mean, they did it for some of the games. They're not paying for the actual.
So to get back to the base point here, the base topic in this particular section right here, basically what Bond is saying is that while they do have Bayonetta and Sonic Lost World and all those other collaborations, they also need to be aggressive and throw money toward multiplats. Now, do you agree that they should be more aggressive when it comes to multiplat titles, like how they are with exclusives?
Which multiplat titles? I think it's just
like like key titles, such as BioShock Infinite, if they had paid for that, or GTA 5, or things like that. Like, do you feel that Nintendo should be more enthusiastic about getting multiplats? Is what Bond is asking.
About multiplats.
Or is just getting the exclusives, is that feasible and they don't have to do anything to try to get multiplats?
I think that they could be probably, like I said, it's on a game-by-game basis. Like, I think that developers will put out their games on the Wii U once the install base goes up. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have a confirmation for Ghost or anything like that, but I mean that's probably going to happen. It was in
that's been confirmed in Nintendo Magazine.
Okay, yeah, so that's been confirmed. So I mean, they didn't have to pay for that. So I mean, like I said, they have to pick and choose. It can't just be like every time that a developer says we're not going to put our game on there, they say, yeah, okay, well we're going to pay them. No, then every developer is going to want that. I think you have to pick and choose. I will say this though, I do agree with Bond as far as certain games. Like I would have really liked to see maybe if they would have thrown some money to possibly get BioShock Infinite, but I mean that game was up in the air. On being on the Wii U, there was a lot of rumors, and Kevin Levine.
My bad, everybody. My internet just crapped out.
Plenty of other companies like if you're trying to appeal to these larger Europe and Western American populations, why are you only going after Japanese developers? That's my point. Why not diversify yourself? Okay, Go ahead.
I really think, personally, like I said, I don't really think that it matters because Nintendo sells their games on a global basis. A lot of their games sell better here in America. So, in my opinion, I think if they're bringing out games that they think that will sell here in America, they're bringing those games out. Like they're bringing those games out, this fall.
Okay, hold on, guys. Pause. Okay, I'll recap what you guys were talking about while I was gone for everybody in the stream.
I told him to list all the collaboration games, right?
Okay.
Like, Bayonetta, the Sonic game, Shin Megami Tensei game. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me because Iwata said US and Europe have larger populations. The market potential for those markets is much bigger than the Japanese markets. So going upon that, my question is, why is Iwata only investing in Japanese-centric games and developers and not in European and Western American developers as well?
Okay, got it.
They have collaborations, but they're only collaborating in Japan. They're saying closed off indoors. If you want to appeal to Europe and America and things like that, why not make collaborations with big-name European and big-name Western American developers as well, and not just strictly Japanese?
And what were you saying, Francis?
And I was just saying that basically the games that they're bringing out, they sell on a global market. I don't think Nintendo sees it as, oh, well, it's a Japanese developer, so they're appealing to it's Japanese-centric. I think that they're trying to sell their games in America. So what if the Japanese developer is making the game? I mean, I think Sony, American developer, they made The Last of Us, and that game sold pretty good in Japan. Donkey Kong Country, that's made by Retro, that game sells okay in Japan. So, I mean, it's vice versa. You make a game, and that game can appeal to American players. I think that the games that they're bringing out are going to appeal to the collaborations that are going to appeal to American players. I really honestly think that. I mean, could they do could they do more as far as getting like more American developers? They tried. They tried with EA, and look, EA freaking, oh god, EA's whack. Look at what they did. So I mean, like,
they're clearly not trying hard enough if they can't get one collaboration with a European or American. You can't. You're telling me they can't get one? Not one?
That's even on their radar. I'm not sure if they feel that. I'm not sure if they feel that they have to collaborate with an American, an American publisher or American developer to sell their games. I'm not sure if they have to. I think they can just make a game and it can sell more in America. You know what I'm saying? They can tweak the game to do things to where Americans can like it more. I think it's more about that. And a perfect example of that is Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem has never been big here in America. Nobody's ever liked it that much. It's been very niche. But what they did is they tweaked the game experience to where Americans will like it more. So adding the casual mode, adding DLC, adding things that Americans will like, all of a sudden the game is a hit. You know what I'm saying?
Fire Emblem has always been Fire Emblem, though. It just got popular because they never released it, because we never got Thrashia, 776, and all that stuff until Melee came out.
Fire Emblem, Dragon Sword or whatever on the DS, that game only sold 250,000 units, I think, globally, or it was bad. I mean, I know in America it did. There was an interview actually. They said, if you guys don't make a game that's like popular in America, the Fire Emblem series might be done in America. So they were under a lot of pressure to make a game that Americans are going to buy, and they tweaked the game to where Americans will like the game. And I think that's what they need to do. They need to tweak certain things with some of their games to where Americans will pick it up. And
so you feel that they've taken effective enough steps to appeal more to the Western audience?
I think they've done so with the franchises that need it, yeah. Other than that, their franchises already sell. Smash Bros, that sells here in America. I mean, like, Monster Hunter did really good in America, I mean, they stuff.
And do you think they should make any Western collaborations or any new Western games to try to push it even further?
I think they should maybe, if they can, if they can do something, if it's feasible, okay. If not, then let guys like Ubisoft bring out Watch Dogs, you know what I'm saying, do a good job of hyping that up, try to do a better job of marketing the Western games that they do have on the system. They can also do that too, because we also have to remember there are Western games coming out of the system. Nintendo can definitely do a better job with marketing. And if that's one thing that you can harp on is marketing the games that they do have coming out of the system, the Western games. So I mean, like, all the Wii U owners need to go out and buy Watch Dogs. That game's gonna be awesome.
That is a good point. Sitting on mountains of money and their marketing is completely trash.
They messed up with I completely agree with you. They messed up with their marketing, and they're like, oh crap, you need to stop. and now they're retooling their marketing now, and they're going to have a new marketing campaign. They started the marketing campaign in Japan, which is actually, it's good. It's much better than the marketing campaign in America. They're retooling the marketing campaign, and they're going to bring out a new one. But yeah, they had to scrap all those commercials because they were horrible. So yeah, Sony did the same thing. Sony messed up their market at the beginning with the room and the baby. You guys remember that commercial?
Yeah, family compensated for their actions, baby.
Nintendo needs to get Marcus PSP to start advertising the Wii U.
Oh my god.
So I mean, so yeah, Nintendo messed up. I completely agree with you there, Blackbone. They messed up the marketing, but they're retooling it. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty of marketing coming up.
I just think that they shouldn't remain exclusive to Japanese collaborations, that they should try to collaborate with other types of regions and see what that could lead to. Who knows what could happen. Do you remember what happened the last time? I mean, look what happened. Retro Studios, look what that collaboration has brought. That's an American-based developer. Look what the collaboration with Argonaut back in the day brought. That brought us Star Fox. You've seen the history of collaborations with European and American developers, so why not try to expand it and do it more?
I mean, okay, you just mentioned Retro. They put out Donkey Kong Country. They have another game coming out, so that's another American developer. I mean, they own Retro, but...
Yeah.
Well, what about Next Level Games? They have Luigi's Mansion. That was a collaboration they put out. That game has been very successful. Not only that, but Next Level Games is hiring a bunch of people right now. So they're probably going to do a Wii U game. So...
Yeah, so this is all more reasons, because we've seen what they can do, and we've seen the success that has happened when they collaborate with developers outside Japan, so they should do it and do it more. But they're not doing it.
Okay, but then you also, here's the thing though, what would be the style of the game? Because you can collaborate with an American developer, but Luigi's Mansion and Donkey Kong, those are all games that sell in Japan a lot too. So what style of game? Would it be an American developer with a Japanese style game like Luigi's Mansion or like Donkey Kong, or would it be an American style game?
Who knows? Star Fox is an American style game. That did super well. Metroid Prime's an American style game. That did super well.
Wait, is Star Fox? I mean, I think that's universal appeal, Star Fox.
Games can be Japanese, American, whatever region have universal appeal, but I'm saying Metroid Prime, people were like, oh my god, it's a first-person shooter, it's not a 2D side-scroller, I'm gonna hate it, and that game was God when it came out. I can't stress enough how good that game was. That's what I'm saying. When you mix different elements, you can make and create tons of unique things and opportunities. But if they're not going to put themselves out there and try to invest in something different and new, I mean, listen, I got no problem with them investing in Japanese, but it's kind of like the same old. That you got to try something new. Nobody ever listen. When Metroid Prime was originally coming out, I cursed that game to high heaven and hell. There was no way I thought that a Metroid Prime first-person shooter adventure would ever be good, and I got crapped on by Nintendo.
So wait a minute. So Wonderful 101 doesn't look something new?
It does, but like I said, it's Japan. Like they should try to branch out and get more new stuff.
So it has to be. So what you're saying is that there has to be more. First of all, it can't be a Japanese developer. Is that what you're saying?
No, it can be. My point is they've only remained exclusive to Japanese collaborations when they've had a proven track record of what European and American collaborations can bring. Rareware was European as well, remember?
Just name Next Level Games, and it's not exclusive, it's just a lot.
Rareware was European, remember, Shokio? And remember, they basically was a 1-2 punch carrying the N64 with Nintendo back in the day.
Retro's taking the spot of Rare.
I don't think Retro is ever going to be as good as Rare was on N64.
Yeah, and Rare put out a lot of
games. Well, that's off topic.
And
that's just an opinion. That's through in.
Well, Retro, as far as game quality goes, Retro's game quality is just as good as Rare's game quality.
They've made Metroid and Donkey Kong. What else have they made?
They need more
contributed. They've contributed to a Mario Kart, made Metroid, and made 2 Donkey Kongs. And that was in a whole generation. Look at all the games Rareware put out in the span of N64, from Donkey Kongs to Racings to Jet Force Gemini to GoldenEye to Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooies. Come on.
Everything that Rare made everything that Retro made was quality. Rare put out more game. I guess, yeah, you're right. Rare
more games and more quality, yeah. So Retro's
Retro's quality is just as high. Their games rank like
off topic, guys.
Let's just go. You're right. They are quality, but they're lesser in number. They're nowhere near what Rare was, and it sickens me to see what Rare is now.
Yeah, and you were praising Microsoft earlier. Look what they did with Rare.
They really didn't do anything with Rare because Nintendo sold that company and kept all the talent like smart people.
Ron, let me correct you. Nintendo, the company was bought. It was a second-party developer.
Yeah.
It was bought. It was it was bought from them. Nintendo didn't have full investment in the company.
They still had a majority stake. They had to sell their stake.
They didn't have majority stake, actually. They didn't have majority stake. They did not have majority stake in the company. If they did, then they would have kept them. The people that actually owned the majority stake, they wanted to get rid of they wanted to sell them. Nintendo wasn't willing to purchase them for full. Microsoft came in and gave I forgot who.
340 million is something.
Insane amount of money. You know what I'm saying? Nintendo just said, oh, we'll just replace you with Retro. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. And they went off to Microsoft, and Microsoft did nothing with all that. You know, well, they made Kinect Sports, I guess.
And Avatar accessories.
Avatar. Whatever happened to off-topic? Damn, what the hell is that? Milo or something?
We all knew that was vaporware from when we saw it.
Your ponies, baby. Yeah, that did nothing else. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Black One? Because after talking with you,
yeah, this has been going on for an hour 30.
Yeah, there's really. Yeah, Nintendo had a 49% stake in the Rare company, man.
That's not majority.
But that's the biggest stake.
I'm not sure. Are you sure they had a?
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, that's not the whole thing. I mean, I'm not. And if somebody wants to come and give the people who actually own Rare so much money, and Nintendo's not willing to give them that much money. And remember, back when they bought them, that was not the Wii days where they had all this money. That was off the N64, or was it the GameCube? That was off of the N64/GameCube or whatever. So it wasn't like they were raking in, dough with their home consoles and their portables. They were only really raking in a ton of money from their portables. So it wasn't like Nintendo had the money just to say, okay, yeah, we're going to match Microsoft's offer.
Yeah, it said on September 24, 2002, Microsoft paid pretty much close to $400 million to own 100% of the company. So they bought out. Nintendo sold their stock to them. They just said, fuck it.
They sold the rest of them because they were going to get bought out anyway. That's how stocks work. They were going to get. There's no way Nintendo could have stopped that. If some company wants to come and pay that much money for that, they're going to get it. Nintendo's not going to match that offer. I mean, they would be crazy to match that. No way. That's so much money for a developer that's not even. They're not worth.
Pretty much dead weight at that point.
I'm just saying. Look, whether or not, they've got a company. They have a company, Retro, that can fit that mold. Whether they brought the amount of games that Rare did or not is not that. What I'm saying is they replaced a quality company with another quality company. Plus, they have Next Level Games, which is also not as quite as good as those two, but probably a notch underneath. So they do have that. I do agree with you that they do maybe need to go out and find some other American company. I'm not even sure if they do have another. I do agree that they should find more, but we'll see. We'll see what they have. But like I said, Nintendo likes to sell their games globally. You see how the reason why I personally think the Xbox One's not going to win is because they're not going to sell anything in Japan. They're not going to sell.
They don't need to sell in Japan to be profitable, man. Look at the 360. The original Xbox beat out the GameCube, didn't sell in Japan.
Yeah, but that's because of the PS2 dominated Japan, so that's detracted from GameCube's sales. You know what I'm saying? It's a different situation now. Now, Microsoft isn't going to win a console generation because right now, the PS3 sold, it's going on 11 million or 12 million units in Japan. The Wii sold 12 million units. If you don't have that extra bump of 10 or 12 million units, it's going to be hard to win a generation. It's going to be hard to beat the PS4, you know what I'm saying, with the Wii U, if you can't sell 10 million units in an area. I mean, come on, that's a significant number. For as much as Americans like to downplay the significance of Japan, because Americans do, they think that they know everything, Japan is very important. 10, 12 million units is not...
but it's still the least important. Like Iwata said, Europe and America are bigger. If you want to say Japan is important, yeah, I agree, but the reverse is also true. not selling 10 million in Japan, okay, but then you're also not going to sell even more than that if you don't have presence in the other regions.
The reverse is not the reverse. Nintendo's going to have a huge presence in America because their first-party games always sell to Americans. They sell a lot here in America. Galaxy sells more here, is more popular here in America than it is.
Yeah, because we're bigger. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying.
Well, what I'm saying is that they have the games for America to appeal to the American fan base, which would be their first-party games. Plus, they have the games to appeal to the Japanese fan base. You know what I'm saying? Microsoft does not have those games to appeal to the Japanese fan base, so it's going to be tough for them to win a generation. And they, for as much as people like to say, "Oh, Microsoft did well," they barely beat the GameCube in sales. It wasn't like they smoked them.
The fact that they even beat the GameCube in sales as a newcomer is an embarrassment in itself.
No, it's
yes,
not.
Yes.
When the PS2 dominated Japan and took all the sales there, Nintendo took back a better job in Japan the following. But that's the reason why, saying that the GameCube faltered. You just didn't get anything going.
Up until the Wii, Nintendo consoles have been pretty much jack shit in Japan. The Sega Saturn sold more in Japan than the N64.
So what about the Super Nintendo?
I said it. It's since the Super Nintendo.
Since the Super Nintendo, the N64 had also.
N64 was awful in Japan. The Sega Saturn sold more in it. The GameCube didn't do well in Japan.
That's what I think. Somewhat that with the N64 they tried to appeal to the Americans, like the graphics. Look at this, what we have, and it backfired in their face for trying to appeal to like the graphics. You know what I'm saying?
They got killed basically because they chose a cart over a CD and cost and development. Squaresoft, when they were good, Squaresoft, when they were good, we're going to make Final Fantasy VII for N64, but then they said, bump that, we hate carts. Once they moved over to Sony, pretty much every third party jumped over with it.
Okay, we're getting off into this completely different...
Are we done now? I think, is there anything
It's time to end the debate.